Hello everyone and welcome back to our last episode of Turning Pages podcast brought to you by RMIT Vietnam Library. I'm Giang, your host, and today for this last episode, are you curious who that is? Our last guest speaker for today is the lecturer of the Human Resources Management. Let's welcome Ms. Thao Luong for today. Hi Ms. Thao.
Hi Giang.
How do you feel about being on the show today?
It's really an honor for me. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm very happy and will be very willing to share my story about books. Hello everyone, my name is Thao and currently I'm a lecturer at the business school in RMIT University Vietnam. I love reading books. Actually in the past, book used to be for pure entertainment for me when I was a child. Harry Potter and reading manga were how I define books in the past. But there is a lot of story about reading book that I also would like to share with you today. But overall, what I'd like you to know about me is someone who thinks book can be your friend and also a powerful tool that you can use in your life.
So that's so great to hear that books have been with you since you were a child and until now. When was the time that you find that books have helped to save or to shape your life?
Well, this question is very difficult for me. I think it's hard to recall the time when I recognized that books are very important to my life. Most of the time I read, since I know how to, since I have my reading skills, I read a lot, and either it's for pure entertainment, as I have shared in my introduction, or whether it's for learning and studying. I think it's good in some way, but I didn't recognize that it is so important and that we need to learn to read seriously when I started my postgraduate study. It was a little bit too late to recognize that, but having a quiet time by yourself away from home and having silent moments, doing some serious reading, learning how to read carefully, read critically, analytically, and enjoyably in a true way, actually was only developed during my study time in Australia. And it was, having said so doesn't mean that I want to say learning in a university or pursuing a degree will force you to read. I don't mean in that way. I mean when I started to practice reading in the right way and having my moment time, solitude time to do a serious reading was the time when I recognized that reading is important. And if we read in the right way, it benefits our lives in many different ways.
So when you were doing your postgraduate degree, I believe that you were very busy. So how do you find the solitude time for yourself to read and to think, to reflect on it?
Right. That's a very good question. Well, I decided to do my postgraduate study in Australia after 2 years of working in the industry. And I was an industry person. I try to keep myself busy. But when I started my study, I recognized that now I have some time for myself. And instead of filling my schedule with part-time jobs, of course I did do 1 or 2 part-time jobs, but I did actually think of saving the time for my pursuing something that I have never done seriously before. And so I disciplined myself. So reading book needs to be done with also, need to be combined or accompanied by having discipline for yourself. Yeah. And I forced myself to spend time at night, at least 2 or 3 hours per night during my study in Australia to read book. It could be any book. It could be my book that I need to read for my courses, but it could also be a book that focus on stories, novels, history, or travel books, or it could also be philosophy book. Those that were very challenging at that time, 15 years ago when I did my postgraduate degree. It's still challenging now for reading philosophy book though, but it's more enjoyable in some way. But overall, my message is to start reading book and enjoying book in the true way. We need to spend time alone, quiet, in an atmosphere, in an environment where we we can focus, we can actually concentrate on what we're doing, and we also need to discipline our mind on focusing on reading only. And having that time in Australia, being by yourself, you know, despite the homesickness, I have the time for myself, and I have the concentration, I have the discipline that I try my best to build. And it was those elements, you know, those factors that make me recognize that the time, that it was also the time that I recognized the books are very important. Reading books should be a habit, and reading books should be an activity that you not only do it for fun, but also, you know, doing it professionally, seriously, practically.
Not only in Australia, and when even nowadays, whenever you are in an adversity or something, you're feeling in a burden or in struggling, do you find books to like a way to escape, or do you want to find any message to help you, something insightful or valuable? Or
as I've shared with you, I didn't recognize that book has been a friend of mine, and it's also a tool. It's not, of course, it's not human being. It's not someone that you can ask a question and they will provide you with an answer, particularly wise answer. You want that someone in your life, right? So you want a human being who's next to you, and whenever you need an advice, you can ask that person. Now let's say you don't have that person, and you don't have even sufficient conditions to go to university for doing a degree, and you don't have a good library. But you have to find your way to have such a friend, and book can play that role in many cases. When I was very young, when I didn't have access to, you know, digital or modern or comprehensive or very big library, I often go to just the bookstore and you know, reading the book without paying. Actually, it was not good to do so, but I found out that if you really love reading and you want to learn about reading in the right way, then you can do so. But it needs to start from you. Recognizing reading is important, and reading in the right way is even more important. Is very important to actually let book become your friend. Otherwise, it would never become your friend. It's just a tool. When you need it, you might read it for looking for a quick, you know, short-term solution. But if you want it to be your friend along the way, along your journey, then yeah, spending time with it, you know, seriously think about it, and learning about doing it professionally and appropriately will be important. To have it as a friend.
So having books as a friend. So do you have your go-to or your favorite genre of books that you may want to look up for when you are in trouble, or you are feeling tired and just want to feel comfort? So what's your go-to choice?
Well, you know what? You can read one book many different times, and every time you read it again, because of your shift in the shift in your age, then the perspective that you understand the book and you know, interpret the book will also change. So at different point of your life, you experience different kind of hardship and challenges, you know, and reading book might help, but reading a book in a way that it can help you to resolve the challenges is at a very high level of reading book. You know, you cannot just ask the book to give you a solution. You need to actually understand the person who writes the book, the background, you know, the education, the family background of the person who wrote the book that you are reading, in order to understand and to whether connect yourself with the book and see if the book providing you some insightful solution for your current challenges. Yeah, so I believe that the book can be your friend in a way that you understand it as its friend as well. And by that, you need to somehow make friend with the person who write the book for you. And understand the insights, you know, the context where the book came from is very important.
So more than just genres, you need to find and to connect with the context, with the background of that book also.
Yeah, regarding your question of what is my favorite, I don't really have a favorite genre, but obviously I spend a lot of time reading the practical books, the one that I need for my discipline, for the domain that I'm teaching at RMIT, but also for my academic career path. But I also want to spend time reading more. If I have more time in the day, though, I would want to spend more time reading philosophy, history book. Those are the books that actually are also very appealing to me. But in the past, I didn't have enough, prior knowledge to actually understand philosophy and see the importance of those books. But as you grow with your age, and if you equip yourself with a little bit more life experience, I think reading philosophy will give you a lot of guidelines for building, for questioning your own assumption, and also probably adopt some new values for your life.
Yeah,
Those that make your life more
I
positive.
guess I'm still too young to understand the message of philosophy.
If you could start with some, now this is an example. This is not a philosophy book, but to read a book so that you can really enjoy it, and either it's a very challenging book like philosophy, or it's a practical book, or it's an art book, you can start with learning how to read it correctly. And I think this is a good book, though. It's a book that you can read, and the language used by the authors are very readable. It's actually easy for those who start reading as beginners. One of the authors, 𝒕𝒉𝒊𝒔 Adler. The name is More-Time. You see, you need to spend more time to read the book. But actually, if you read the book, you might be able to learn how to read those difficult books like philosophy. But besides reading, I would encourage you to discuss how you understand the book with those who also share the same interests or have expertise in the field. That will actually encourage you to go even further to understand the book.
So it's really great to hear your insights on this first topic. So for the second topic, I want to ask, how has your perception of identity and self-awareness has changed or has influenced by the book you have read?
I think this is a very interesting, also challenging question.
Yeah.
Okay, if you define self-perception as the way how you live your values, your own assumption about yourself, then I would say books pretty much influence me in many different ways. I remember there's a bestseller author, best-selling author of the New York Times. He said that the people you met and the books you read will shape who you are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it rings true for me. As an academic at RMIT, I love reading practical books about human resources management, but books such as this one, for example, it's just provided some quick, answer. But in order to really find the practical answer, you probably need to read other books. So those are practical books. It's shaped my practices. It shaped my my knowledge about the discipline, about what I work with students every day in my profession, in my domain. But there are many other books that also shape myself, not as an educator only, but as a human being. For example, I would encourage you to read the book, the series of books about the flow experience by Professor 𝒕𝒉𝒂𝒂𝒃. Unfortunately, he has just passed away a couple of years ago, but what he left for us about flow theory influenced me very much, especially my perception about how to be happy. And in the book, I don't want to spend the whole day talking about the flow theory, but basically it influenced my way of understanding happiness. I used to be a person who really loved multitasking. And I believe that multitasking will help us to resolve a lot of issues. But now, after I read the book and a series of study and research by Professor 𝒕𝒉𝒂𝒃, I learned that happiness needs our concentration. We need to do one thing at a time. And and we need to actually build our skills and knowledge and make and advance ourselves, so that the process of the putting more effort, gaining more skills in life will give us more freedom, and that will lead us to happiness. So that's one way that book can influence my life, not only as an educator, but as overall as a human being. I think books can be a great friend, and the person who wrote the book for you can also be your great friend, someone that you have never met but still can have a connection with.
So you have mentioned that you love philosophy and history books, right? So when were the period that you find history related to your life, and how do you love it that much to make it like one of your icon of
My genre of book?
Yeah.
Actually, I would want to, as I share with you during my limited time, I would want to share more time reading history book, but unfortunately at the moment I have very limited time. But the reason why I want to spend more time on reading about history, even though books about history are very subjective, we have to admit that, is written by people, and people look at history in many different perspectives, from many different angles, and that's where I love reading history book. From the same historical event, you can understand the different ways that people view, people perceive the war in different ways, and history book give you the sense of what the war is. Of course, not only from your own perspective. Let's say if you read the history book in Vietnam for the same event, it would be different from a book that is written about exactly the same event but was published by an American author, for example. So you can see how people viewed the war in different way, and you can broaden your mind and understand where you come from as well. So recently I'm also interested in reading and learning about the Bible. In my opinion, the Bible is also a history book, and it carries a lot of not only didactic lessons like teaching us about ethics, but it actually makes us question our own assumptions a lot. So history book is one way that you can broaden your mind, your understanding of where human beings are from, the way how we are transforming our society, and where we are going to in the future. So I would love to spend more time on those books. Overall, books such as the Bible or philosophy book or history book, you can read it, but then if you find it a little bit problematic or different from your assumption, go check with someone who have read and have let's say a level of advanced knowledge about it to explain and interpret it for you as well. So that is a good way to broaden our knowledge and make us even more excited about the book that we are reading.
How do you feel about learning nowadays? Had the difference between the learning in the previous time, like maybe 15 years ago or 10 years ago?
Obviously, everybody recognize that learning in the current time is supported with a lot of different tools, and especially the internet, right? When we have the internet now, we can get access to so many different kind of resources, either a library or magazines, or both academic or industry resources are all available now online. So obviously learning in the current time is much more advantageous. It's easier if you have the internet and the right equipment with you, like a laptop or a computer that help you to access to those resources. But it doesn't mean that we are learning better. We have more conditions to learn, but I'm not sure, and I don't have evidence that we are learning in a better way. But I'm positive that we would need to be more selective, as the internet helps us to get access to so many different reading materials and matters. We have to be knowledgeable in choosing the right material for us to read, and whether we need to be able to evaluate whether we learn through such a channel or such a platform or such a source is beneficial for ourselves and also for our learning journey. Specifically, for example, I would say if you're in a university environment, your library, let's say RMIT library as an example, would be the best source for you to go to. And from my understanding and experience for RMIT library, most of the books that I want now are currently in only online version.
Online.
They are not available offline anymore. Those that I really want to have in my bookshelf now, I would have to read them online. But that should not be a problem. The problem here is you need to be able to get access to the library or to the quality sources of book, because there are a lot of books now, a lot of reading materials that are available for everybody, and maybe the reason behind those publications are just to get your attention, to receive your like or your votes or your reactions for marketing purposes. We need to be really select the book that we want to read so that it benefit our knowledge and make us also grow as well.
So as a lecturer and a continuous learner, how do you avoid the false information and the fake news?
I would have to organize a session on this, but I have already shared with you guys a lot across all of my classes. There are many different ways for you to check whether a source of information is quality or not. Normally you need to check who published it. You need to go, before you read anything that an organization or a person publish, you need to go to read who they are. You need to find out the person who wrote this or the organization who published this piece of information or this piece of knowledge. Who are they? Are they a reputable, esteemed organization? Are they a publisher who have the experience and the reputation in publishing? If it's written by a person, you need to find out who this person is. What job does this person does? What is the family background, the education background? What is even the more you understand about the person, the more you would be able to decide whether you should read what he or she writes or not. Now, I am very selective. I'm very careful in choosing what I need to read because, as I share with you, I have very limited time. So I would love to I would just read what I suppose are very valuable for myself. So I would have to really understand who wrote the book or who wrote the articles that I am about to read. So just check out, okay? Get to know who wrote or who published the piece of work that you want to read before you make a decision to read it. But if you already find some articles or some reading matters that are very interesting that you want to read it, after you read it, you still need to judge whether it's right or wrong, right? That is reading analytical or reading critically. We have to be able to evaluate whether we agree with the message that the person is saying or not. And sometimes I have a feeling that we are very easy, nowadays, this is only my feeling, I'm not sure if it's right or not, but I can see that people read very, I don't want to say carelessly, but we tend to welcome all of the different sources of information and think that they are true. Now that is very important. Even for a person who I love very much, an author that I admire a lot, I would question everything that he says. You don't need to agree or you don't need to believe in some person or some organization saying something just because they are someone who are famous or celebrities in the society. You can also criticize, you can also use your critical thinking to judge and to evaluate what you hear or what you read. So that would be my sharing on regarding your question on how to choose a good source of book, a good book or a good source of information to equip ourselves with knowledge.
Normally, what are the platforms that you usually go and learn and find the sources from it?
As a lecturer at RMIT, my first platform would be the library.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, it's because RMIT library subscribe to a lot of quality book, and they subscribe to a lot of quality publisher. If I have only 24 hours a day, then to actually read all the book that are offered by RMIT library, it would take me at least 36 hours a day. So that was a joke, but I hope, what I mean is you can utilize whatever you're having at the moment. But if you're not a student or a lecturer at RMIT, you can always get access to the National Library, or now there are many different tools. If the review make you feel really, intrigued and really motivated to read the book, then you should go for it. But you should read the review first.
So alongside with books, do you have any kind or the type of learning that you want to share with the audience? Like maybe learning from videos or audio tape or something, podcast?
Unfortunately, I'm not really a fan of podcast because I don't really, but I would recommend, if you want to have, just to seek entertainment at the same time with learning, then go for movies. But again, just like book, you need to be very careful in choosing the movie that you're about to watch. Companies that are reputable and those that are, they won award, like Academy Award movies, you can, prioritize watching those movies, especially those movies that characterize history in a very lively way. Then you can, when you watch it, you can also improve the way how the director himself or herself, characterize the history for you to see. So that would be my recommendation, because I use it to learn as well. So besides reading, I would spend time on movies. But again, be selective.
I think learning from movie is a really creative method. Normally people would learn from YouTube, learn from TikTok or Facebook or something, learn from LinkedIn Learning. I think that's also a really great way to learn from.
But I'm very happy that you mentioned those sources. My way of learning and also my recommendation is not to try not to look for shortcut in reading. Like people nowadays, this is only my subjective observation and feeling. I have a feeling everyone try to read very fast. And even for content writer, they would try to write the content in a very short and few sentences so that people can just read it in a couple of minutes. Now, those habit of reading, screen and trying to read very quickly, short messages, is very dangerous for me. I think it doesn't build a depth of our thinking. It doesn't contribute to our habit of reading seriously or reading in the right way. And if people depend on that kind of learning, that way of learning, they will sooner or later lose their ability to read in the right way. They will find it easy to read in a very noisy environment. They can read some information very quickly, but to learn and develop our thinking to a higher level, to advance our way of viewing the world, it cannot be done in such a way. It needs time to reflect. It needs time to understand what we read, and it needs time to dig down into the, making friends with what we read and the person who wrote it for us. So, but nowadays people might seem to be looking for a quick way to learn, and learning should not be something that can be done in a short time. We talk about lifelong learning nowadays. It's something we have to do the whole life, and reading should be the same. With just a Kindle, you can read so many different books. Now you don't have to, build a big bookshelf in your house. You just need to carry your Kindle, and on your Kindle there could be the book, or just your laptop, and you can also already have all of the textbook that you need. So you don't need to have a big house anymore. You just need to get access to those quality.
Also, I assume that previously people didn't read that fast. When I was in elementary school, the lecturer told us to read slowly and like word by word, and like get as many message as we can. So I think it's really differentiate with nowadays that people try to make it fast, or just summarize it.
I wouldn't recommend fast reading. As I have shared with you, the moment I recognized that reading has a big impact on my life was when I really concentrate, and when I read my books in a quiet and my solitude time. So when you actually want to get the benefit out of a book. And when you want books to be really your friend, you cannot read it in a very noisy environment. Let's say, of course, you can still read it on a public transportation, like a train. When you're on a train, you can also read book, but you need to, have your mind and your heart with it. You cannot just think about your work when you read, because you will see that after you finish 2 or 3 pages, there's nothing in your mind. You don't understand what the author are writing at all, or you understand him or her only at the surface level. And in that way, reading would not be fun, it would not be beneficial. So by having your own time and staying in a silent or quiet space, it will give you, it will actually give you the chance to discipline yourself and build yourself the right reading skill, rather than trying to read things quickly, and trying to get quick information. But those are only information. If you want information to turn into your knowledge, you need time to reflect. You need time to question what the author said. That's why I recommend this book, because the authors teach us how to understand, not only receive the information, but understand it, question it and evaluate it.
There are plenty of online resources available for us to access. So do you think printed books, physical books, are still necessary and relevant to our life?
Well, it's really a personal preference. It's really a personal choice. But I'm pretty sure a lot of good books are now published online. So if you are someone like myself, still preferring a printed book, maybe in the future you might need to learn how to read online book. But again, I don't think whether it's printed or online book matters. It matters that we have the skill to choose the book and to read the book in the right way. So even for myself, I now still read the printed book, but for books that I need and RMIT only provide the online version, then I will have to read it online. But I'm okay now. I mean, I'm used to it, reading online book now.
So which factors of the printed book makes you prefer it more than the digital resource?
Well, it's really a personal thing. I love the smell of a book.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, the smell of a library, even though full of old books, are always very appealing to me. And it was the first time I stepped into Griffith University Library is when I recognized books. The smell of the book are so attractive. And it's the same for RMIT Library. For me, I would wish that we have even more printed book. But I understand that nowadays a lot of publishers offer their book online. But yeah, it's a personal thing. I really love the smell of the pages of the book.
So as a lecturer, do you recommend the students out there the way to balance the convenience of using digital resources and the experience of reading or flipping the pages of the printed books?
It's a factor of discipline. But now I would encourage anyone, not only my student, to be aware that reading fast or reading just for convenience, like you say, is not recommended. Because it would not help you to read in depth. It would not help you to build the right reading skills. And sooner or later, you are not reading book, or you're just reading for entertainment or quick solution. I don't have a very practical advice. The only thing I would say is discipline yourself. And you need to be aware that you are having that kind of habit. And when you recognize that you have a habit that is not good for yourself, then you have to change it. So if you keep scrolling your phone or trying to read things very quickly without really having time to even think about what you read or question who wrote it for you. And normally we don't even care who wrote it, right? I saw many people read the comments on Facebook and they just skip from one to the other and read very quickly. But that kind of habit for reading should not be used when you read something more serious, more important, and you need time to digest what you read and make friend with the book, as I say. So, but if you keep doing it every day, it will become a habit, and that habit is not good. So we need to change it. We need to get rid of it.
Do you think that printed books are like more to help you to avoid that habit of quick reading? So I always see people have the habit of quick reading because they just scrolling their phones, and that like reading online makes them also.
I think you should not read a book on a phone. Firstly, my viewpoint is having a phone is convenient, but it's not a book. You should have at least a Kindle, something that is the size is large enough for you to see the letters, to see the word on the book. A phone is not designed, I know, but it also has some application that is designed for reading book, but it's not a book. And in that way, a laptop or a tablet that has a size good enough for you to see and read the book are also okay. Doesn't need to be a printed book, but of course, when you do the reading you do screen reading, you will also need to practice how to take notes on a screen. Like if you read on a PDF or a Kindle, you have to learn how to take notes, because reading without taking notes or reading without writing together to actually comment on those information that we read will also not help. So you need to practice taking notes on a screen when you do reading, because it's quite easy to do it on a printed book, right? And you should do so. You should look at my book, the printed one. They should be only my book because I wrote a lot of things on it. And to write on the book when you read is one thing you should do. I would highly recommend you to do so. And of course, when you borrow a book from the library, you cannot do so because the book belongs to the library, right? You don't want to. So you can use stickers. Stickers one way. But the good thing about reading online book now is that you can take notes easily. You don't have to be worried that the book is not yours, so you cannot take notes.
I just click add comment or click take note.
And then you can save it for yourself, right?
Yeah. So your answer also conclude our big topics for today. But before we end the show, I would want you to give the audience out there some message for them to encourage them to read more books, to be more curious, to be more serious with the book for their personal life or professional life.
Thank you, Giang. I would share with the audience my favorite quote. So I don't compose my message. Actually, the message is composed by someone else who was very famous, and he's a Greek philosopher, Aristotle. He said that through discipline comes freedom. Reading book definitely benefit to your life in many different ways. It will influence you. Reading book in the right way and reading the right book will even bring you more achievement and success in your life. But you need to have discipline. So just like Aristotle say, through discipline comes freedom. If you have discipline yourself now, if you build a reading habit that make you enjoy reading challenging book, understanding challenging book, but then the book give you wider view of the world, helping you to reach closer to the truth, then you will find freedom. You will, as you have more knowledge and you have more wisdom, you will have freedom in your life. That would be my final message, if I could share in our program.
Thank you. That sounds really academic as you are. I may also apply this as well because I really love that quote.
Yeah, that's also my philosophy in living as well. If we practice and we have more skills, you will see that we can do more things in our life. And can go to the countries where we want to go, we can do the jobs we want to do, if we have more skills. Now, having more money doesn't mean that you can do those things, right? You can go to some country you want, but probably you cannot do the jobs that make you feel life is meaningful. So freedom in just such sense actually suit more with my life philosophy.
So Thank you. That message of you actually concludes our show for today. Thank you for joining us today, Ms. Thao. As your message are really valuable for the youngsters like us. And also the audience out there, thank you for stay tuned for the last episode of Turning Pages podcast. Thank you for exploring the way through the books with us and the guest speakers. This is our last episode, so there is no stay tuned anymore. But thank you and goodbye.